one of the funniest things to me is when I get criticism on the internet, all well received, all taken, of like, man, you just got to sling this iron, bro. Stop with these wacky exercises to target the muscle. Like, you look ridiculous. Like, pick up a barbell. Okay, sweet. So imagine I already took your advice 24 years ago, and it failed me. Thank you. I'm going to be doing good exercises now with good technique. Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for RP Strength. And believe it or not, I got a few things right when I was really early in my training, and let's learn from how magical and perfect I was and how I did everything right. Not true. A little while back, I think we put out a video about how some of the stuff I did was not so great. And that definitely was not ideal, but I did get some stuff right. Let's talk about it and see if you can learn from it and maybe do it a little bit yourself. First, progressive overload. I would seek to add 5 to 10 pounds to the bar, or a rep here and there to dumbbell movements, kind of from day one. I sort of just thought that was the point. It turns out I wasn't wrong. I knew almost nothing, but I knew like you got to add some weight. And I did read Arnold's Education of a Bodybuilder, not the Encyclopedia of a Bodybuilding. That's a later book. And he did talk about just pushing the pace a little bit. And I did that and it worked wonders. I even went so far as to put weights in my backpack. I remember I had straps, the 120 dumbbells in each hand for lunges, but that wasn't enough because I was going over 20 reps on those. And I was taking a backpack and putting 60 pounds in there. So 2 25ers and a 10 plates, zipping it. It sags a lot at 60 pounds, not supposed to be doing that. And then I would lunge with it. And I got a little absurd. I probably could have had better technique, but the idea was more. And that was really good. It also helped me challenge my notions of what I could and couldn't achieve. You know, you get to the high 300s in the squat, you're like, am I really going to squat 4 plates on a side? I don't know. You get to in 365 and you stay there forever. But if you go to 375 and later 385 and later 395, deload and you're just one jump away from 405. It can be a thing as long as you push proactively, not just reactively. Yeah, if you seem to be getting stronger, push up. Try to push up anyway and see if you can match it. A lot of times it's just the mentality that's keeping you behind and not really the physiology. Don't just go by feel. Push the pace gently in most weeks by a little bit, another 5 pounds, another rep, and you're going to do really, really well for yourself. Another thing I did early on was I worshiped religiously with sacrifices, mostly animal, squirrels and stuff like that. I miss a squirrel, like a possum here and there. I worshiped the compound basics. I was drawn spiritually to pull-ups, bench presses, shoulder presses, squats, deadlifts, rows, and so on. And these movements allowed me to narrow my focus on strength and technique. Once you build a lot of good technical acumen and a lot of strength, you can open your focus to everything else and it comes super easy. But if you don't have a lot of strength and technique, everything else kind of is a little bit difficult. It also allowed me to keep my approach simple and consistent, focusing on these core movements. And to be honest, fellas, I have many, many flaws. I have never, ever in a million years had paralysis by analysis, or as I like to call it, anal lysis paralysis. Anal lysis, if you spread out, anyway, it's the destruction of in any case. I never had that. Straight up, I've never had it my entire life. And I didn't even know what the hell I was doing for a long time. And then when I started learning, I didn't have a moment where I was like, oh my God, there's too much stuff. Nope. I stuck to the basics until there was a compelling reason and need for me to incorporate other exercises. And I gently did. And then I was like, oh, that's great. Or man, that didn't work. And I went back. Analysis paralysis often occurs when you see the entire latent space of all of the exercises you could be doing. And you have your group that you're doing. And you're like, if I did these, I'd be better. That's how you become a champion, you say to yourself. But the reality is if you just stick to the core group, you don't have to worry about what else is on there, you know? Scott, the video guy, he has a core group of guys he always hangs out with, and they do physical things with each other. When we're on the road, he sees a cute boy. He is very not frequently like, oh, should I do things with him the boy will like and I will like? I say, no, Scott, you got your boys back home. Stick to your boys. And he's like, you're right. They're sexual. They're young. They're men. Oh, everything. A few are old. Silver daddies, they're called. Scott, do you think you'll ever be able to quit your addiction to silver daddies?
I mean, it's tough. They just keep getting better with age, you know?
That's tough. And in much the same way, I couldn't make it, fellas. Leave in the, don't edit this out. In much the same way, the compound heavy barbell basics and dumbbell basics, they're always good. They don't get better with age, although you get better with them, at them with age, because your technique grooves in and your strength builds. I'm not telling you just jettison all the other exercises. I'll have something to say about that in a little bit. But if you want to stick to core compound heavy basics, they are never going to do you dirty, especially as a beginner. They're going to build an incredible base of size and strength for you. And then you can later refine it by adding more isolation and machine exercises, which is exactly what I did. Another one, point number 3, something I got right is good technique. I did not have it right away. I'm completely honest with you guys. If you saw me lift in high school, which many people did, and even my gym teacher was like, they could have better technique. And I was 16 and entirely uninterested in hearing things like that because YOLO, I'm going to like jam weight. One of the funniest things to me is when I get criticism on the internet, all well received, all well taken, of like, man, you just got to sling this iron, bro. Stop with these wacky exercises to target the muscle. Like you look ridiculous. Like pick up a barbell. Okay, sweet. So imagine I already took your advice 24 years ago and it failed me. Thank you. I'm going to be doing good exercises now with good technique. Technique is important. I didn't have it in high school. I actually got hurt a few times in high school. I hurt my shoulder benching. It sucked. But after my first 4 years of lifting, I got into powerlifting, and powerlifting is a standard. Like you can be under any impression of what a squat is until and unless you try to do a powerlifting meet. And then they tell you this is a squat and nothing higher than this is a squat. So you're at least going to be sinking below parallel, which is really, really good, even for hypertrophy. And the bench press, you got to touch your chest. And the deadlift, you got to keep your back straight and all this other stuff. And so at some point, with these technique tips I picked up from powerlifting, I transferred them into bodybuilding, and that technical stringency was really, really helpful. So I didn't do it as exact beginner. I wish I had, but a pretty early intermediate. I already had good technique, and it never left, and I've just been perfecting it ever since. That kept the gains consistent and kept me safe literally for decades. Whereas before, I actually probably got more hurt in the first 3 years of lifting than I did in the next 10. Because precisely that I was not doing good technique and that I was. Number 4 thing that I did was consistency. The only time I've been away from the gym, from regular gym sessions, for more than a week and a half, ever to this day since I started lifting, was when I had hernia surgery. And they say you're not supposed to lift. And even then, just after 2.5 weeks, I was doing light lifting already. And believe it or not, but for the first 2 years of my lifting, I actually wasn't in love with it. It was just painful and I hated it, but I knew I had to do it for some reason. But I kept showing up and getting more and more results. And after about 3 years, I was falling in love, and the rest is history. And now lifting and I are like spiraling into the sky together and staring at each other like face to face. I've got my hands on her waist or whatever like this. We're Superman flying. And then later I'm like trying to get my tongue all up in there and smooch. And she's kind of like, no, it's romantic. No tongue. But in any case, that's lifting and I didn't always have it there. But once I did, hey, once you fall in love, you're good. You'll be consistent, but be consistent anyway. So if you don't love lifting yet, stick to it. At least 2 days a week, maybe 3. And a few weeks off here and there, no big deal, but don't take months off. Focus. The gains will come. Focus on the gains. Focus on the fun. Eventually, you'll fall in love and consistency will no longer be an issue, but it's a big deal, especially early. And lastly, number 5 thing I did early that was really good was incorporating some variation. Some people can do the same identical movements for years and years and years and not bat an eye. God bless them. This can work, but in some cases it risks kind of overuse injuries because it's the exact same force vectoring pattern to the exact same tissues, the exact same way over time. And also it can risk psychological burnout. There's only so many high bar squats you can do until you're like, I never want to see a squat bar over my life. Then you need a break. So what I did is very similar movements like I talked about, but I would change things out every few months when they felt stale. And the way I would change isn't necessarily go into different exercises, which sometimes I did, but a lot of times it's subtle changes, which are awesome injectors of variation into your program. Things like stance width, medium stance squats, narrow stance squats, wide stance squats, grip width, pull-ups with shoulder width, pull-ups with just outside of shoulder width, wide grip pull-ups, grip type, overhand grip, neutral grip, underhand grip, repetition ranges, sets of 5 to 10, sets of 10 to 20, sets of 20 to 30. Exercise order, sometimes it's bench first, then flies. Sometimes it's flies first, then bench. Every few months I change that. And of course, the exercise itself. Take away leg press, go to hack squat, so on and so forth. Even though back in the day I hated hack squatting because I was too big of an idiot to figure out how to do that exercise properly. So at the end of the day, that variation kept me progressing. It kept me safer. And it kept lifting way more fun for decades to come. So don't just pick your core exercises and be like, that's it, 5 moves every day. That's cool. But try after a few months with the same movements to change the grips, positions, etc., and maybe some exercises. Another thing you can change is the cadence of the lift. You can do slower eccentrics or quicker eccentrics. When you have that intelligent variation every few months instead of every few days or like once a week, you get the best of both worlds of awesome progress, milking out all the gains you can from a lift for a time, and then switching and having a ton of fun doing some new stuff. Should you try to stick to all of the things that I found that worked for me? Yeah, probably, because they're quite basic. There's no rocket science here. But whatever else you find in your lifting that's working well for you, for giving you better results, or even if it doesn't give you worse results, but it makes the gym more fun, lean into that for sure. Because it might be a strategy that keeps you in the game and progressing for years, and then it'll pay dividends. Because eventually you'll wake up and you'll be like, oh my God, I'm huge. No, how did this happen? This is bullshit. I've got a scat. I've got to go buy clothes. I mean, I didn't even know my pants are too small, and then the bulge is obviously not big enough. And when my muscles don't push up my cock bulge into my jeans because I've got a lot of space, people think, oh, maybe he's packing something in there. But when I've got the big quads, the jeans tighten up, and then people can see, like, oh my God, is it like a micro penis? Or like, what's going on? Is it really a woman? Do I look like a woman? Am I talking like a woman to you? No, I'm Arnold. Stop it. But listen, before you go, what you want to do is look at the description, because you've got the hypertrophy app. I don't know what that means. It's a fancy science word. In Germany, we just call it something simple, like Guggenfang-Beigelsstagel, which actually means dog. Yeah. And then, but it's going to get you jacked, and there's electrons in it or whatever. And then if you're too big or too fat and you're disgusting, or you're too skinny, look at you, your puny arms, then you want to do the RP Diet Coach app, which I don't know what it does. It tells you what to eat, and you need the help. Look at you. Pathetic. Anyway, I don't know what the hell that was. I blanked out. I'll see you guys next time.
1 in 5 or 1.5 in 10,000 males have a micro penis, Mike. So you're not alone.
But theirs is not as micro as mine. I'm going to be the champion, Scott. No,
I have the most micro.
That's
penis.
right. Yeah, no bullshit. The guys come up to me. They're like, "Hey, I'm really sorry." Like, what are you sorry about? It's because you have a micro penis. No, don't stop the recording. We're keeping this in. And I'm like, no, but yes, I do. But yours is smaller than mine. And they're like, that's not true. And then they pull my pants down, and they're like, but you don't have a penis. I'm like, bullshit. You just don't have telescopic vision. You need a light microscope to see my shit. Yeah, and I'm working on it. It's getting smaller. So at some point there's going to be electron microscopy is the only way you can do it. What the hell? That's like the longest rant I've gone on this, Arnold. Anyway, for real, see you guys this next time. Peace, homies. Are you going to hit the button?